All right, I have the transmission mount almost done. So I took a piece of 2" by 3" that's 1/8" wall, and I have it notched out on each end, and that notch is to allow it to sit down on the frame here and be low enough to slide in underneath. I have two big holes drilled in the bottom, so I did those with a hole saw, and that's so that this piece can drop through on each side, and then that will allow this to come down and sit on top. And then this piece just slips down between the rails, and that'll slide up in place. So these pieces will go in. The washer that goes on top of that. So I have to get the transmission jacked up a little bit, and I'll get these in place, get everything snugged up, and then I'll go ahead and check. I do have, again, these are oval slots here, so I do have some movement, so I'll get everything in place and squared up, and then I can tack weld that in, and then I'll have the rear or the transmission cross member done. Now with this, I do have one more step here that I want to do. So I'm going to cut a piece of 3/16 right here, and I haven't cleaned this edge up completely yet. I just cut that on the bandsaw. So I'll clean that up with the angle grinder real quick, and then I'll bend a piece of 3/16 to go down in there, and then weld that in place, so that'll be solid underneath. I left about a 1/2 inch of room when I used the old cross member. I had a cross member that came out of the 40 Ford frame, and when I put that up in place, it looked like from the underside of the transmission down to the dip in that stock cross member, it was about a 1/2 inch. So I left about that same amount of room. So I'll get that cleaned up and get that piece welded in place, and then I can go ahead and set everything up, get all the mounts in place, snug them up, and I'll be ready to square it and get it tack welded in. All right, so I got the piece of plate welded on there, and that side's cleaned up pretty good. Top is looking decent. I depleted my supply of grinding wheels for my angle grinder, so I got this one kind of cleaned up, so I got a little more prettifying to do, but it's good enough. I can go ahead and get it moved into place, and I'll get the motor mounts on there and get everything set up so that it's ready to be tack welded in. All right, I've got it in place right now. Both motor mounts are in. The motor is centered side to side, and the cross member is square on both sides of the frame. So I'm really happy with the position, and I was going to go ahead and throw a couple of tacks on it, and then I realized that I hadn't cleaned up the inside of the frame as good as it needs to be. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to jack the transmission back up, and I'm going to have to do a little cleaning in there before I can finalize things. So that's going to have to wait for tomorrow.